Socrates was a butthead. And I mean, really, I'm going to prove it too. Hello, I'm Eshkalar, the world's greatest Canadian wizard, and if we check these days in this world of muggles, you'll find that I'm probably the world's greatest wizard. How about that? You get to talk to the greatest at something. Wait, and he likes you. That is, wow. That's better than being liked by a sultan or a king, because that sultan or king will never do nothing for you, where Eshkalar is going to spin you some truth, and here you go. Socrates and the narrative that he is the brilliant guy that began philosophy, which is all bullshit. Really, bullshit. Really is. I call shenanigans on academia for promoting narratives instead of searching for truth, because it supports the chair until he dies, and then you can bring some new facts in. So it's a really bad method of slowing down the progress of knowledge. But I want to talk about Socrates, who academia holds up as one of the great thinkers and the beginners of a process, which is absolutely untrue. Socrates is only known to us through two sources. His fangirl, Plato, and if you don't know why I call him a fangirl, read it. And his enemy, Aristophanes. And if you're a person who believes that watching this television channel that rips on your enemies is the right one, and this guy thinks that listening to this television channel that rips on his enemies is the right one, you guys are falling for the Socrates narrative, the bullshit instead of the truth. You're not looking, you're just accepting. And that would be okay if they weren't all snake oil salesmen trying to sell you down the river. But they all are. That is the nature of a confidence man, is he wants to harm you to benefit himself. So anyway, Socrates, being a con man, he got paid to entertain at parties, big parties cast by really rich people. So he was a big-time entertainer. Think of him as like Cher, or somebody similarly wonderfully talented and brilliant. Ye. And got hired by rich people to perform at concerts, basically. Parties where you could eat and drink and have it off with the servants, because that's how it was in democracy. You people don't read history, you don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, he was hired by the wealthy, the rich and famous, to entertain. What was his entertainment? Practically like Machiavelli. Oh, you are so wonderful, you great and powerful people are the most marvelous people. Read Plato's Republic. It's exactly what it was about. Kissing the asses of the rich in the hopes of getting some money from them. These are the people you believe are the great philosophers. He had to have a shill in the crowd to ask the right questions before somebody used their brain thing and asked a bad question. That's a confidence man. That's a snake oil salesman. It's not a philosopher. It's not a thinker. It's not a historian. It's a guy that gets over on people to profit himself. So, what did Socrates hate most? Well, he hated anything that any con man would hate. Other people getting a leg up on him. Other people being believed ahead of him. Other people being more entertaining than he was. And here's the point. One of the things he hated, according to Plato, his fangirl, was cuisine. That's the word he uses, I believe, as it translates from the original non-linear Greek. That's a joke if you don't know why that's fun. Forget it. So anyway, he hated cuisine, and especially sauces, according to Plato, because they gave you newfangled diseases, according to Plato, like flatulence. That's right, bazood. And I'm here to tell you, from having been to parties like that, perhaps some back then, you never know with Eshkalar, but the reason he hated flatulence in particular was because flatulence was more entertaining than Socrates. It was competition. And here's how that worked. You'd be eating onions and garlic, and having it off with the servants, because that's what these parties were like. That's what democracy was like in Greece. Only the rich and powerful had a vote or any autonomy. And everyone else had to do what they say. If you want the ultimate version of that, look at the non-democratos, Sparta, and that's exactly how they lived. They were perfectly educated people, except they lived off of slavery. And they couldn't have done anything without the slaves. When the slaves rose up, that was bad for Sparta. The Helots. That's right. They went to Helot in a handbasket. Oh, there's got to be a joke there, but I'm trying to make a point about Socrates. Socrates kissed the ass of the rich and the famous because that's how he made his money, entertaining at their parties. So think of him, like I said, as Cher or Ye, people that do that. And he was surrounded by a group of people that pumped him up full of hot air by telling him how wonderful he was, just like Cher or Ye, until he finally became a balloon and thought that the balloon was the entertainment, which is not. So anyway, he hated cuisine because it caused newfangled diseases, one of which was flatulence. And he'd be at a party talking, oh, blah, 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 blah. People would be like, oh, well, you never shut up. And then somebody would be like, and everybody would be like, oh, hey, Socrates, answer this. Explain away that. And then he'd be sitting there going, you son of, I gotta kiss these asses or else I won't get paid. You have to let them do that for a while. And then you go, well, blah, 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 blah. But now they're way too drunk. They're not listening to him. So he comes off with this air of invincibility, intellectually speaking, when really all it is people got drunk and drifted off because he was so freaking boring. He didn't make any sense either unless you had somebody in the crowd to ask the right question. Snake oil salesman, anyone? Oh, I think so. Hey, my arm hurts. Can I try your... Oh, my arm works again. I can pitch baseball. That's exactly what Socrates was. A snake oil salesman. Working crowds of rich people for money. And if you want to read how Socrates really was, you can read one of the very few surviving works of the truly brilliant man of Athens, Aristophanes. Read his work, The Clouds. It is, even in translation, 2,500 years later, hilariously funny. And television can't even make anything funny at all today for the culture it was built for. So that's how smart Aristophanes was. Other thinkers like him on his level, I can only think of Rabelais. He's the only other one that's that brilliant. Everybody else is just following the ass of the horse in front of them, intellectually speaking, philosophically speaking, and entertaining speaking. So, but, like I said, Socrates hated cuisine because he hated these newfangled diseases specific to them. He hated flatulence because it was more entertaining than he was. And people would laugh their asses off, and they'd be willing to pay some guy to fart creatively more than they'd be willing to pay him. So, those of you that hold Socrates up as like this major reasoning type, there were philosophers all around that thought circles around him, but he was the one that was kissing the asses of the rich, so he was the one that gets remembered because the rich bought his stuff. Look, Socrates says we're wonderful. Plato, his fangirl, says in The Republic, read it so you know what I'm talking about. How important and how wonderful are the rich, and they should always rule us. And we should do what they say. That is the point of Plato's Republic. And if you don't read it, that's because academia spun you a narrative and you just accepted it without ever questioning. What does that make you? One of my fans, I hope. And I, as best I can, will help enlighten you. For the only price that's worth it in this universe, free. Find somebody else to do that. This is your old pal Eshkalar on this 13th of April, 2024, in the land of Muggles. Hey, if you're not doing anything else, check out the Starlight tonight. Hear Kate Snow and John Parham play. It's free. Signing off.